Oh, Debbie, go ahead.
I just, my phone made it quit on that last meeting, but I went through the recording and I thought it was great and I really liked it. Just thought I would throw that in there. So,
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, the
sure.
recording is really, yeah, it's really handy, isn't it? So,
But it seemed like the meeting would be good too. Oh, my kitty's here too. Okay.
Yes, see, Giles, not only you have kitties. Okay, so as usual, we do our prayer for today, before we start every meeting. And for today, Len, can I ask you to be the volunteer for this prayer of Caritas? I will put it over here.
I love that. You said ask as the volunteer. Len, do it. Okay. In my other life, I was Padre Lala, but I'll do it. Okay. I did take confessions at one time. All right. God our Father, who is all power and goodness, give strength to those who go through tribulations. Give light to those who seek the truth and fill the human heart with compassion and charity. God, give the guiding star to the traveler, consolation to the afflicted, and rest to the sick. Father, give repentance to the guilty. Give truth to the spirit, guidance to the child, and Father, to the orphan. Lord, may your goodness extend over everything that you have created. Mercy, Lord, to those who do not know you, and hope to those who suffer. May the goodness allow the consoling spirits to spread peace, hope, and faith everywhere. Oh God, I speak of your love can illuminate the earth. Let us drink from the fountains of this abundant and infinite goodness. All tears will be dried and all pain will be lessened. A single heart, a single thought will raise to you as a cry of gratitude and love. Like Moses on the mountain, we wait for you with open arms. O goodness, O beauty, O perfection, we wish in some way to deserve your mercy. God, give us strength, help our progress so we may rise up to you. Give us pure charity and humbleness. Give us faith and reason. Give us the simplicity, Father, that we will make our souls the mirror that will reflect your divine image. And so be it. I do confessions later if anyone's interested.
Thank you, Len.
All right.
You probably give too long of a penance.
I won't even tell you how many rosaries I had to do when I was a kid, when I came out of the confession box.
And now you want to take it out on us.
Exactly.
So funny. All right, guys. So during the week, I was talking to Margaret a little bit, and she had some good questions and thoughts. And then I thought about bringing some information about some of the spirits that helped Allan Kardec to put together his books. So today's topic is about the spirit of truth. As we read Allan Kardec's books, especially the Gospel according to Spiritism, it does have a lot of answers from this spirit. The name is the Spirit of Truth. And then Margaret was asking, okay, so who is this guy? There is no really a short answer to that question. The Spirit of Truth is actually a group of high spirits helped, those who helped Allan Kardec to put together his books. So you can imagine that what Allan Kardec did was actually quite complex. So it did need a lot of help from the spiritual realm, a lot of coordination from superior spirits as well. So, and Kardec was this living being, was this guy making this spiritual reality possible or concrete in our world. So, as a matter of fact, Kardec once he did ask, because over and over he was receiving those messages, and then the name was he was getting messages, very good messages, very elevated, high level, high moral level, and no names. And then he did ask, okay, who, which spirit this is, and the spirit said, well, there is no need, this is the message of my father. This is about divine, a natural law. There's no, so they don't those high spirits, they really do not hold personalism, so they do not want to put a name. So the spirit said, okay, so you need a name, put it there, Spirit of Truth, because whatever they are talking about is about the truth. And Kardec actually once asked Spirit of Truth, what if he failed? What if he had failed in his mission? And the answer was quite shocking to Kardec, because the answer was that this revelation, talking about the gospel according to Spiritism, the book, the Spirit's book, and all the books from Kardec, they said that these books, or this message, was and is part of this key milestone in God's plan for humanity. And as such, the Spirit would never, ever rely on a single person to do that kind of job. If Kardec failed, for example, they said that there were 9 other options to continue with the plan. We are talking about at least 9 other individuals who were born around the same time, and whose spirits were also prepared to take charge of this task before reincarnating again. So, and we know one of them actually was Leon Denis.
Anna, sometimes we lose your voice for some reason. It's the second time.
Okay, let me.
Yeah.
So be it.
But we lost the name of who the second person was. And I'm
Leon
dying to know.
Denis.
Who was it?
Leon Denis.
Okay.
Okay. Is that better?
It's a bad sound. Sometimes you are talking and we cannot hear anything. It's
Okay.
seconds.
Yeah. Okay. So, and about the Spirit of Truth, so we talk. Yes, it is a group of superior spirits working with a coordinator, as we can sometimes recognize as we read the books from Kardec. However, there are several instances that we can recognize who actually is talking in the name of Spirit of Truth. You know, giving the high moral value, the absolute consistency, the profound, elevated aspect of the answer, and as well as the logic of and thoughts that actually matches a little bit with the message that we see in the Bible. So, so for example, I got from the Gospel according to Spiritism, in the chapter 6, it talks about the advent of the Spirit of Truth. And then it's a very long message. It just put you know, some sections of it over here. But those say, for example, the Spirit of Truth says, I have come as I came on another occasion to those misguided sons and daughters of Israel to bring the truth and to dissipate the darkness. But man with ungratefulness has moved away from the straight and wide path which leads to the kingdom of my Father and has followed the bleak pathways of impiety. My Father does not wish to annihilate the human race. Those of you who are weak and know the obscurity of your own minds do not deviate from the beacon which divine clemency has put into your hands so as to enlighten your pathway and reconduct you who are lost children once again to the bosom of the Father. So he's talking about these books, the advent of the Spirit's books and so on. So they say, so the Spirit of Truth continues, Spiritists, love one another. That's the first precept. Educate yourself is the second. And later it says, I am the great physician of the souls, and I have come to bring you the remedy that will cure. So no way that this is Jesus talking, but he would never identify himself. Instead, he put just, you know, Spirit of Truth. So, okay, just a quick introduction on one of the spirits helping Kardec. And then necessity of labor, 679, this was the last one. We stop here. Are there any individuals who possesses enough worldly goods for survival to render them exempt from the law of labor? That's the question. The answer, perhaps from material labor, but not from the obligation of making themselves useful according to their means and developing their own intelligence and that of others, which is also labor. There are individuals to whom God has granted sufficient means that are not restricted to earning their income by the sweat of their brows. In that case, their obligation of being useful to their fellow beings is all the greater because they have at their disposal a much greater amount of free time for doing good. So the following is 680. Are there individuals who are incapable of working and whose existence is entirely useless? What do we think? Without reading this, let me hide this.
Well, I can tell you that one. I can answer that one. There is, I understand there to be about 50,000 incarnations to fill the human experience. And at the low end, you don't expect much from the spirit. And at the high end, you can safely expect a lot, knowing that the spirit knows everything is based on love. So somewhere in between all these incarnations, anything is possible. And it never is an incarnation wasted, because at least two things happen in an incarnation. One, you get born and that hurts, and it kicks you in the ass, and it takes you a while to get to get your shit together as you're born. And even if you then do nothing because you happen to be paralyzed from the neck down, and there you sit, or you're Helen Keller and you're blind and deaf, and never is an incarnation wasted. So I don't have to read the answer to this one to know that nobody is ever wasting their time when they have an incarnation, even it may appear to be useless. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I like your answer, Giles, your thoughts, because that's what the spirits say, that we never go backwards. There is always a chance of learning something, even when we do mistakes, even when we just screw up the whole time. But there is no turning back. There is no way. We can stop evolving, but there is no waste, if you will. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yes, Margaret.
Okay, so speaking from personal experience, I have a son who was born with a syndrome, and he was able to do quite a lot in his 9 years, but his existence, I believe the value of it was expressing love. And even though he may not have been able to work, all the people who knew him said that he was one of their greatest teachers, just by the virtue of the love that he could give, even though he couldn't work, so you never know what a person's purpose is, even if they don't appear to do all the traditional activities.
Yeah, right. Yes, it's a very nice example. Thank you for sharing, Margaret, because I know someone, I think we lost Giles. That was, he was like 13, 14-year-old when he got this disease, and then he was completely paralyzed from, he could not even move his head. However, he was the strongest person. He spent his entire life in a bed, literally, but yet he was going to a spirit center and giving lectures.
Wow.
So it's a matter of, it's not the work with your hands, but with your spirit, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's about it. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, Joseph, sorry.
I want to compliment one thing, and I think it's like, if you cannot work physically, you can always work like pray or send good energy, being fine inside yourself, being well, have a good energy, because you're helping the earth, you're helping yourself, you're helping people around you, and that's really important. So you need to really consider. Sometimes it's even more important you make your inner change than physical work, because that's what's going to count when you disincarnate. So yes. Maria, do you want to read your comments? Maria, Jose, do you want to read the box?
No, I am not very good today. You can read for me.
Okay, but do you want to read, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Maria Jose is saying, in the same book, Gospel According to the Spiritism, chapter 5, item 6, which talks about the previous cause of afflictions, Kardec clarifies, but if there are evil in this life whose primary cause is man, there are also others to which, at least in appearance, he is completely strange, and that seems to hit him as if by fate. Such, for example, those that deprive so many unfortunates of the means of earning a living through work, deformities, idiocy, cretinism, etc. Those who are born in these conditions certainly have nothing made in the present existence to deserve, without compensation. So sad luck who couldn't help it, who are powerless to change for themselves, and which puts them at the mercy of public commiseration. Nevertheless, by virtue of the axiom that every effect has a cause, such miseries are effects that must have a cause. And as long as just God is admitted, that cause must also be just. Now to the effect preceding always the cause, if this is not found in the present life, this should be prior to this life. That is, to be in a present existence.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a mission, you know, you just accept to be in that condition because you want to teach something, like Margaret was saying, you know, to give a lesson to someone, or just teach the other ones how to love someone unconditionally, right? So yeah, thank you, Maria. Very good comment. Oh, Giles is back. I'm glad. Lynn, sorry.
To sum it up regarding incarnations and lessons, an expression I've always used is reincarnation is the teaching tool for the soul learning curve. Reincarnation is the teaching tool for the soul learning curve. And that sums it up.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. It's an excellent opportunity.
I've always used that expression. I think that takes care of it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Thank
and
you.
you always will. That's a perfectly good expression, since nothing is
you.
ever wasted.
Giles, read it in my first book, in our first book.
Thank you. Debbie.
Unmute. I just thought that, you know, when we first read it, I was thinking, well, some people are well enough off that they don't have to do physical work, and they can have the time to help others in other ways. But also with different kinds of afflictions, I think people help in, like, they're the only ones available, and they do help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think that's a reason that this happens too.
Yeah. Thank you.
People
Yes.
like that.
Good point. Yes. Thank you. Giles?
I have to remain optimistic about this. Not have to, because it's, first of all stories have happy endings. Now we need to remember that when we're going through a troubled period. There is no such thing as an unhappy ending. If the ending doesn't look good, that's because we haven't waited long enough.
Yes. Guess who?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really need to remember. And the second thing is that the purpose of our 50,000 incarnations, or pick a large number, right? I've picked 50,000 because that's what makes sense to me. Then you are everybody and everything by turns during all those different incarnations. And bit by bit, you begin to understand everything to do with incarnations until the time comes when you don't need another one. But it's never wasted. And you can look at, well, here's one which always makes me cry when I tell the story, because I read it somewhere. In Chicago, there was a couple who were a professional high-speed couple, and they were busy digging themselves into big business and aiming at lots and lots of millions of everything. And they couldn't get pregnant. She couldn't get pregnant. They couldn't have a baby. Finally, they did have a baby. They're now in their 35s age, and the baby comes, and the baby's got a congenital neurological disease, something Len would love. And this baby was absolutely incurable and in great pain all the time, but smiled. and died when it was 7. They were so horrified by this that they changed their attitude completely. And among other things, they spoke to a medium some years later, and they found out that this was a very high spirit that had chosen to incarnate to help them, to stop them being such idiots. And it worked. So you cannot look at anybody's incarnation and say, you're wasting your time. You never know what the story is.
Exactly, the big picture.
The big picture.
As a matter of fact, talking about what Debbie said, afflictions, talk about afflictions reminded me that when I was little one, I used to have terrible dreams, and I was so afraid of losing my eyesight, and it was just a nightmare after nightmare, and it was something that I was constantly in panic, thinking that I could lose my eyesight. And when I had my I think my first son was already born, and out of nothing, I had this vision of someone. I don't know. It was the place I was all of a sudden transformed, and then I was in this dark place, and for some reason, my body was way too heavy. Was pretty heavy. I could not see anything. I tried to see what was, the surroundings. I tried to see something, spot something, but I could not see anything. Instead, I was feeling cold, even though it was not cold in the tropical weather. I was in Brazil. I was feeling cold, and my body was heavy. And I knew there was nothing. I didn't have shoes, and I was stepping on something, the ground that was very cold. And I was extremely sad. And then I realized that I was not having a vision. That was me in the past life. And that happened to me 3 or 4 other times, something that happened to me, and I realized, a previous lifetime. And then that experience made me believe or realize actually something that happened to me today. And it helps me a lot. I know people very well. And to the point that my ex-husband, before doing any business, he was talking to me about, a potential partner. And then he was just describing me that person. I could tell him if it was a good thing or not a good thing, if it was a good person, someone to trust or do not trust. And sometimes he didn't believe me. Oh, no, come on, this person, no way. And yes, it was. So, and then I realized, well, that's why, because I didn't have my eyesight. I was not judging people by their, the way that they look like. I learned how to read people, how to know people. And today, this is really, really key, because as project manager, I do work with teams all the time. And sometimes they're not so easy co-workers. Sometimes we have to deal with, sometimes there are some individuals that don't want to collaborate, they don't want to cooperate. But because of the ability of knowing people, and or sometimes they just show up in my office and they all of a sudden they start talking about something, and then they say, I do not know why I'm talking to you about this. I never talk about this subject with anybody. Well, so I think it's because of that, because of that lifetime that I had, I learned how to know people. So, all right. So Giles, sorry, somebody said something.
Just said that's very interesting. Thanks.
Thank you. Giles, you were the last one. Can you please read the answer?
Yes, ma'am. God is just. He condemns only him who is voluntarily useless, for such a one lives upon the labor of others. He wills that each should make himself useful according to his faculties. Sorry, that was I was reading my own version of it. Which
yes,
is
I
later.
noticed. Yeah.
But okay, God is fair. God only condemns those who are voluntarily useless, because such an individual lives off the labor of others. And God wants every person to make themselves useful according to their own abilities. Okay.
I do have a comment on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Yeah,
I bet Len's
because
got one.
I think the meaning here is the consciousness, because at the end of the day, if you realize, so let's say you have plans before you come over here, before you reincarnate, you have plans, you have something to do, and then you just don't use the time to do what you plan on doing. And once you go to the afterlife, then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm falling behind my schedule here. I guess that there will be some impact on your consciousness, right?
Yes, and I think the main one is that you will need to do it again. And when you realize that in the afterlife, having been through a mortal life on this earth, you say, this time I'm going to get it right.
I have
Because
to
you can't be angry. You can't be angry with anybody but yourself.
But yourself, exactly. So I guess that's the real meaning on this answer, because really God is about love. It will not condemn anybody.
Exactly. Exactly.
Anything else? Any other comment? Oh, all right. So we go to the next one.
The next one is can be jumped over very quickly.
Does natural law impose an obligation upon children to work for their parents?
You asking me, and I'll tell you, if you're born in India, tough shit. You have in a poor village, you have a difficult incarnation. But on the other hand, you knew that, which is why you chose it. So one size does not fit all in this. And no matter what you see happening, you don't know what happened before in the last 20 incarnations that person had. And born into different societies with different pressures. And I'm sure Josie will have something sensible to say about that.
Go ahead, Josie.
I just want to say, I'm not a mother. My husband has a 14.
You are. You have a step
mother, but like if I have kids, and even when I was a kid, not to work like labor work, but it's really interesting. You put your kids to make some chores at home and learn responsibility, or maybe help you mow the grass. I think like the kids, they absolutely can help without being abused. And things that they're going to learn for their lives and create responsibility. So like even my dad would give us like per week, like $5. Okay, you guys need to wash the dogs, clean the cages, and give the food. And then, this kind of easy things that the kids would do, in the same time help us to learn responsibilities. So.
Yeah, my grandfather used to say that work is always good. And in case of children, everybody, but in case of children, as they are growing up, it helps building up a character, a good character. And I agree, it does.
Can I
Maria?
say?
Oh, sorry, Margaret. Yes.
Well, a little different take on this story is my mom had Alzheimer's and I cared for her for the last 5 years of life, but I'm one of 7 children and I seem to be the only one who was capable of that. I mean, seriously, nobody else could do the work. Not just that they didn't want to, but they couldn't. But so my take on this is like parents take care of kids when they're little, but that sense of caring for parents when they're older and they need help is sometimes lost in our society now. And I think even more than just the work, labor, like working in the business or working at the house, it's that sense of mutual giving back and forth that I think is so important. And I don't know how that's gotten lost, but it seems to have.
Yeah, excellent point. Yes, I agree with you. Yep. Yeah. And sometimes, not only that, but sometimes we see the children, sons and daughters, sometimes they say, at least in Brazil, this is very common. For the weekend, everybody, during the week, everybody's so busy working all the time, school and doing their stuff. And then during the weekend, with the excuse of visiting the parents, then they go, the kids, they go and take their own kids, the grandsons and daughters, to the house of their parents. And then the old mother is cooking and such, and while everybody's having a vacation, short vacation.
Oh my goodness.
This is very, yes, this is very
Wow.
common in Brazil. Yeah.
Wow.
So not only that, I mean, the kids, they should be cooking, right? For the parents, but instead, no, they're just taking advantage of, okay, we are going to mommy's house and take a short vacation.
That's funny. It does sound like fun though.
But it's not fair.
No, it's not fair at all. No.
Maria, sorry.
Hey, Josie, will you talk to me, please?
Yeah, it's starting the gospel, right? So in the gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 14, item 9, which speak of the ingratitude of children and family ties. Saint Augustine clarifies, ingratitude is one of the most direct fruits of selfishness. It is always revolts honest hearts, but that of the sons for with his parents presents an even more odious character. Is on particular from the point of view that we are going to consider it, to analyze the cause and effects. When they leave the earth, many spirits therefore go away full of violent hatred and unquenchable desire of revenge. But to some of them, more advanced than others, it gives them the glimpse of a particle of the truth. Then they appreciate the disastrous consequence of their passions and are induced to make good resolutions. Finally, after years of meditation and prayers, the spirit takes advance of a body in preparation in the family of the one who he hated, and asks the spirits in charge of transmitting the superior orders permission to go filling in the earth. Is the destiny of that body that has just been formed. What will be your procedure in the choose family? It will depend on your greater or lesser persistence in the good resolutions you have made. Is the other one as well, Maria? The incessant contact with beings to whom hated constitute a terrible ordeal, under which he often succumbs if you don't have a strong will yet. So as to whether or not the good resolution prevails, he will be friend or enemy of those among whom he was called to live.
Yeah, that's a good topic as well. One day we will talk about the family, how those individuals are picked to live together. So, Debbie, please.
Well, I guess I grew up in a family where we had a family business. So it was like, you work for the family. There's like, you don't even think twice about it. That was it. And then about taking care of the, parents later on. Our daughter is dating somebody in the military, and my husband is so worried about him taking her away, and then she won't be able to do anything for us. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Thank you. Gloria.
Yeah, I'm retired. And so my labor is with an organization called CASA, which is Court Appointed Special Advocates for Children who've been abused and neglected. And I do that on the state level and on a local level. And
I know CASA.
We have thousands of children who've been abused and neglected. And I got involved in that organization because as a child, my parents did not provide for me, and they were very abusive. My mother was married 6 times to 4 men, and they were all very, very abusive. And I never felt, what do I want to say? That's the problem I have with this. They may have had a duty to work for their children, but some of them have killed their children, and it's a tragedy. And there's a shortage of foster homes, and these kids, they don't, as far as I'm concerned, they don't owe anything to their abusive parents, except forgiveness for their own sakes. I have forgiven my parents. And as Wendy said once, I appreciate the role they agreed to play by coming here and doing that to me, with me, for me, because it has propelled me into a life of service for children who are abused now that I'm retired. So I do thank them for that, but not what I went through as a child. And the children that we're serving now, they don't have a duty to their parents. They have a duty to stay alive in spite of their parents and what's happened in their young lives.
Yep. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And can
I
I
know
point out
CASA.
that Allan Kardec was talking during the 1860s and the 1870s, and the treatment of children in those days was even worse than it is today.
Yep.
Why? Because there's much more money around,
Income,
and that
yes.
helps.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry, Gloria, I do agree with what you're saying, and it's contemplating the awful horrors that humans do to each other are all part of the popularity of this planet. Because when you get through an incarnation or a series of incarnations on planet Earth, you will have grown your spirit by leaps and bounds. And if you go and incarnate somewhere else in a different civilization, well, you'll be spending your life picking flowers or doing something absolutely innocuous, which is soft. Why? Because they have a good civilization. Here on this planet, we do not. Why it's so popular.
We're still, the children are still experiencing sex trafficking, slave labor, horrors are going on all over the earth to children.
Yeah, and to adults too. Don't single them out,
Starvation.
children out for it.
True.
Slavery is alive and well in at least one country that I'm not going to name. Len, you got something on.
Len, go ahead.
Just
You're on mute.
simply
Oh.
a summation, spending my life at a children's hospital, a large children's hospital, I've always summed it up this way. You see the best of humanity and the worst of humanity. And I wouldn't even get into descriptions of what one can experience. But I think that sums it up. You see the best of humanity and the worst of humanity. And that's all I'll say, I think, at that point.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yes, I'm laughing because it's much safer that way, Len. If you started describing the dark side,
I would get too emotional.
And we would all burst into tears, and then it would be the end of the meeting. So come on.
Well, let's put it this way. At times, my blood would boil of what you witness.
Yes.
And that's all I'll say at that point.
And at other times, of course, it would surge with joy at what you saw. So let's stick to the last one.
That's right. We keep it nebulous at this point because I would get too emotional. And there's sometimes it's best to sum it up that way, the best and worst of humanity. That's all.
Yeah, and I do relate pretty much what Gloria said, and I know exactly what you mean, Gloria. I did have my experiences as well, but you know, I realized actually my ex-husband one day, he said, you know, if I didn't know your brother and sisters, and if I didn't know who actually your father was, if I was just hearing from you, I would say he was a great person. Because and then I realized that I never told him anything about the bad stuff, but just the good stuff. And then I said, well, because that's the memory I decided to hold. So today, if I think about him, I always, my thought is about gratitude. I thank him because I'm alive. He decided and he accepted that role, and he gave me education. He gave me discipline, and he taught me, perhaps he didn't realize, but he taught me how to overcome challenges and how to overcome difficult times. So, yeah. So love is always the answer for everything, I guess. Right. So Len, you were the last one. So would you please read the answer?
Okay, let's see what we got here. This is, okay. Of course, just as it imposes on parents the duty of working for their children, for this reason, God has created filial and parental affection so that family members may be naturally led to mutually help each other, a duty that is too often lost in the world today.
Today, 1860. Okay, so with that, I think we finished the necessity of labor, and we are going to limit of labor and rest. So like retirement. So limit of labor, rest, 682, as rest after labor is a necessity. It is a law. It is a law of nature. So the answer is definitely rest restores the bodily powers, and it is also necessary to give a little more freedom to the mind, allowing it to rise above matter. What do you think? As a matter of fact, this is a key whenever we study the law of progress. This is a key concept for that law. That's why we progress. That's why we evolve, because of new stuff, technology, etc. Just so to allow us free time so we can develop, the mind and etc. Gloria, please.
Think of the example of farming. You only use the field for so long and then you let it rest to restore so that the fertility of the soil is restored. And it's
Excellent example. Yeah.
an example that it's true for us too, that you'll burn out if you just keep go. So
Excellent comparison. Yes. Thank you. Jose, I think Maria wants you to read something.
Maria, where did you put it?
Okay, she did.
I don't think she does.
Yeah. Margaret.
Just the comment that education without reflection is almost, it's not useless, but it doesn't fulfill the full intent. So just as with work without reflection, you wouldn't have that time to receive your inner knowing and messages from spirit as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice. Yes, agree. Thank you.
That was very nice, Margaret. Thank you. Your comments will be more welcome after that. That was very insightful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jose, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to read from Maria. In the superior worlds, work is less material, since the needs of those who inhabit them are not material. But even so, he continues to exist, because his absence would not be a reason for joy, but torture. The moments of laziness are not desired by the most involved spirits. As an example, we have many. All of them use it all the time available to practice charity and to be useful in different ways. So it's in John 5:17, Jesus said, "My Father works until now, and I work."
Yeah. As a matter of fact, during the presentation, thank you, Maria. During the presentation that Leda did a couple weeks ago about labor in the Astral City, so she mentioned that the coordinator or the principal of that Astral City, he never stopped. I mean, he was always working. Some of the spirits, everybody else, they had some days off, but that guy was never actually, he never stopped. Josie.
Just say it's a personal opinion, but I think it's nice to have a balance, right? Like this question is say everybody needs to rest. I think everybody needs to have moments of joy or enjoyment for doing something and be responsible and do your work.
Yeah.
Like, and I know you and me, sometimes we work way too much, extra hours. A lot of people do that, but we need to watch out. We need to have a good balance so you don't get sick.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Giles.
Oh, okay. No, it's simple. When you read about a workaholic in the afterlife who goes at it 24 hours a day for how long? Well, reality and logic have to occur in here. Is this somebody who's doing it for 100 years? I don't think so. How about 10 or 5? And then they go and do something else that calms them down, like gardening instead of social work. So it's, you can't judge other people, and seeing this this person working 24 hours a day and doing so all the time that you're there, you haven't seen the end yet, and you don't know when it started. So you can't make say that, oh, in the afterlife we're going to be 24 hours working. No, that's somebody who loves what they're doing and is being successful at it, and
exactly,
going to do it until they really need a rest.
You brought up a good point, because in the afterlife, I mean, time is a dimension that we we keep on, but afterlife is timing doesn't, it's meaningless. The other thing is your comment reminded me, for example, that Chico Xavier, when he was alive, he was working for this public department, and during business hours, and then after that he was going to the Spiritist Center, and then he was doing charity, etc., etc. And late at night, like 11 p.m. or so, that's the time that he used to sit down to write the books. And he did that for many, many years. Sometimes he was sleeping like for 2-3 hours only, and just keep on working and working and working. And I do not know, how old was he, Maria or Jose? How old was Chic when he died? 90?
I think he was 92.
92, right? Yeah.
But Geraldo
Yes.
Lemos, he always says that Chic sometimes would sleep 1 and 1.5 hours only per night.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was like a machine.
Unstoppable. Yes. Yeah.
But I think it's so different from us. Chico was a missionary. He came
Exactly.
to bring all this knowledge, show a moral. We cannot.
And
do that.
Josephine, it was really unfair. In his lifetime, he was contracted sicknesses in his poor youth, not properly fed, not good medical care. So he was what we would call disabled. He could hardly
Today,
walk
yes.
properly. And he keeps at it nonstop till 92. I think he's made his spirit a lot bigger after that incarnation.
Yeah, and I heard already, even Emmanuel, his guide, say that a lot of his sickness came to show him to never leave his path. He has a mission he could not fail. He needs to be successful. So I see more like helping him to remember, to keep on track. What do you think, Yana? Geraldo sometimes say that as well.
And also something that Geraldo says is the nature of the charity work that Chico used to do was also key to keep his body health, because as you do charity, you talk to people, and lots of people praying for him, and sending him love. So that was buying some time for him, that not that he was thinking about it, but that's the repay, if you want to think about it, and so she could go on and on and on, despite all the difficulties and
And one thing I have for myself, Chico Xavier was so poor. His family was so poor. He didn't have food several years, like not food, not eating. Like family has financial problem that for years his family would
malnutrition, yes,
right? And I think he came in that situation to show that he wrote the books. He never got one pen, and he sold more than 50 million books at least. So like he was actually a millionaire, but he donated everything. So I think he came to show that side, like doesn't matter. Oh, it's easy. You give money when you're rich, but it's really not easy when you really need it more.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there is a very nice story about Chico Xavier. One day he was receiving people in his Spiritist Center, and it was the time for him to write the letters, the consolation letters. So there was this queue of people, and then he was so mothers waiting for a letter from their sons, or wives waiting for a letter from their husbands, and so on. So there was this lady, she was rich, and then she was waiting for a letter from her son, and then Chico got that message and wrote it down, and then called for that name. And the lady came to receive the letter, And she was so happy about that because she had news from her son. She wanted to pay Chico something, and she said, "No, it's nothing. I don't charge anything. You know, it's just, you know, your son wanted to send you a message. There it is. You're good to go, and you know, lucky you, because we have several other people, and probably they will not get a message because there is not, you know, enough time." But then she had this golden watch in her wrist. It was gold. It was not just golden, it was gold. And then she got that watch and gave it to him. And he didn't accept, but then she put it on the table. So then the next person was a very poor lady, and she didn't lose anybody in her family, but she was very sick. And then she wanted something. She wanted some help from the spirits. And then Chico received this message from the spirits telling her, you know, some sort of treatment, not medicine, but something that, you know, some behavior, some how can I say, not procedure or medication, but you know, things that she could do to help on her health. And then the message was, okay, on this time do this, and this, or, you know, do this type of exercise, or do this. And then she said, well, I do not have a watch. I'm so poor, I don't even know what time it is, you know, what time of the day. And then she could pick that golden watch. Okay, there it is. Now you have it. So for him, it was not a, you know, he didn't bother about the value of the thing, but the functionality. That's what it is. Okay, so the next one is 683. What limits labor? It's a short one. This is the last. What limits labor? Giles, you always think of something. Lynn.
What, you want me to say something here?
Yeah.
What limits labor? It is limited by strength, but God gives human beings the freedom to decide this point for themselves. If I make a comment, I think love within the heart and soul gives us that extra special energy and strength.
Yeah.
When you feel that great love, you go the extra mile, as they say. Everything you do, it just gives you a lot more gratification, energy, great feelings within the heart and soul. It's just totally comprehensive.
Yeah. 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 Do you what do you like and you never work, right? Like Giles was saying earlier. Carol, you had your hand raised.
Oh, I was just going to say knowledge, you know,
yes,
can limit labor.
That's a very good one. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
There are better ways.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Allan.
No, thank you.
Me? Okay, so Maria said, it is said that a postman passing in front of a house in a small town saw the professor watering his garden and said to him, "Working, professor? No, I'm resting." Later, when he returned, he saw the teacher sit in the garden reading a book. "Resting, professor? I am not working." This example, I am now, I think what it means is I am now working, right? I think that's what it means, not I'm not working.
Yeah.
I think that's most apt, because the three activities that are described there, well, he didn't describe the siesta in the afternoon, but working, no, he's resting while he's gardening because he loves
Yeah,
it.
for him it was probably a passion, and then he
And
was
then when he's reading a book,
Ah,
he could, of course, be reading a book on quantum physics, and it's called work because you don't, it's not so easy to understand and read it. And yet he could be reading a perfectly nice novel, which is then recreation instead of study. So as usual, one size does not fit all.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So just finish the paragraph. Work is any physical, material, intellectual, and spiritual activity. It is an individual, social, economic, and moral. Nietzsche leads men to develop himself and to develop societies towards improvement.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you, Maria. Guys, 4:17 here in Houston. So it was a pleasure having you today, and I'll see you next Saturday then. Looking forward to
Absolutely.
see you guys.
Bye-bye,
Buonasera.
everyone.
Buonasera.
Buonasera. Que tu.
Buonasera.
Time flies when you're having fun. I hope you're better next week, Maria Jose.
Yes, for
Bye-bye.
sure, for sure.